All right, so we've talked about the sense of hearing that comes with the different parts of the ear. However, another very important sense that we get from our ears is our sense of equilibrium. So there are a couple of different types of equilibrium. There's rotational equilibrium, gravitational equilibrium, things that allow us to maintain our balance while we're turning our head or while we're sitting up or lying down. And so this is going to be controlled by those semicircular canals that we find in the cochlea. So the vestibular nerve originates in the semicircular canals, saccule and utricle. This is going to be responsible for sending signals to the brainstem and our cerebellum. Now, there are other structures in the body that are involved in equilibrium, like our eyes help us maintain our balance. This is why it can, you may have heard, like if you're ever seasick or nauseous. Me personally, here, more homeostatic imbalances. I get car sick very easily. I'm less likely to get car sick if I'm sitting in like the passenger seat. If I'm sitting in the front of the car and I'm staring out the window, I'm much less likely to get motion sickness. And it's even better if I'm driving, because then I'm constantly fixated and focused on the horizon. It helps maintain my sense of equilibrium. So that's where your eyes can come into play. Your proprioceptors also play a very important role. Those are your receptors that end in your muscles and your joints and help you figure out help you orientate, figure out where you are in the world. But we're going to talk very specifically about rotational equilibrium, which is handled by the organs in your ear. So rotational equilibrium is handled by the mechanoreceptors in the semicircular canals. There is going to be one semicircular canal for each dimension in space. The base, the ampullae, so that'll be the base right here, is going to contain hair cells whose stereocilia are going to be embedded within the cupula. So here we have the cupula, which is going to be this sort of jelly-like substance with the projecting hairs found inside of it. So these are our hairs. These are attached to a vestibular nerve that's going to send the signal to the brain. When these hairs are deflected, they're going to stimulate an electrical impulse that's going to travel along these nerves. Each ampulla responds to head rotation in a different plane of space. So what happens is this fluid inside of your brain is going to flow back and forth. And as it flows back and forth, it's going to help stimulate the different hairs in your semicircular canals and let you know, hey, based on how I tilt my head, based on how this moves, I know which way my head is tilted. I know which way I am in space. So as fluid in the semicircular canal, like I said, flows over that, the stereocilia, those hair cells are going to bend and it's going to send that signal to your brain. Then an appropriate motor to the various skeletal muscles will correct your position in space as needed. So as you don't lose your balance, as you turn your head or as you rotate your head, your body can help maintain your balance and send that information to your skeletal muscles. So that's rotational equilibrium. There's also gravitational equilibrium that your organs are responsible for. So the utricle and sacculae, those are going to be those two membranous sacs, and I've kind of already mentioned those. They're going to be located near the semicircular canals. Now they both contain hair cells whose stereocilia are embedded within the otolithic membrane. Otoliths are calcium carbonate granules that rest on the membrane. So here we have otoliths that are resting on this membrane. Now the utricle is especially sensitive to horizontal movements and the bending of the head. So this is going to be what's responsible for helping you maintain and learn information as your head tilts forward or tilts to the side or back and forth. So it's going to respond to that vertical the utricle responds to horizontal movements, and that's kind of like the twisting and the rotation, and then the saccules respond to vertical movements, the tilting. So both of them are going to contain hair cells whose stereocilia are embedded within the otolithic membrane. When your body is still, those otoliths rest on the otolithic membrane right above those hair cells. When the body moves in the horizontal and vertical planes, those otoliths are moved. They kind of roll back and forth. And so the otolithic membrane is going to sag, bending the stereocilia of the hairs beneath. if the stereocilia bend towards the largest stereocilium, nerve impulses are going to increase in the vestibular nerve. And if it moves away, the nerve impulses are going to decrease. The frequency of those nerve impulses in that nerve indicates whether your movement is up or down. So this is how our ears help us maintain our sense of balance, our sense of equilibrium. All right, so you should be able to state the location and function of the structures involved in helping us maintain balance and describe, just very generally speaking. I just want you to have a really general understanding of how that rotational and gravitational equilibrium is achieved and how those two can kind of work together to help us maintain our balance.